Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody.
What's up, guys?
Welcome to the 113th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. Lucky number 13. I'm Milan Starcic with co-hosts Andrew Norman and Brandi S.
What's up?
Today's topic is the gift of desperation. Can you share what this means to you, Andrew, and why you're happy to discuss this topic here today?
I would love to. I think all three of us sound a little tired this morning, guys. Good to see everybody.
Man, dude,
That's all right,
called
man.
it. You called it. I literally
just-
did so many steps this week. I'm like killing myself.
I can just hear it. I can hear it. This will be a nice laid back podcast. But yeah, so the gift of desperation is, man, when I started really thinking about it. We talk about it a lot in these meetings, but in the context of recovery, and when I really started digging into this thing, you know, it's that profound sense of despair, right, and hopelessness that can lead us to finally seek help, you know, and commit to this recovery process. You know, it's really a beautiful point in one's life, right? That where that pain and suffering can caused by the addiction was so unbearable that it can make one willing to be able to do whatever it takes to change and survive, really. And I think I just froze up, but I think I plowed through it.
Your audio came through perfect, so your face froze, but it was great. It was great.
That was
It
awesome.
was a good face.
You're going to like it when you watch
That's
back.
great. That's great. I just figured I'd plow right through it. So look,
Good job.
GOD, right? Gift of desperation. My sponsor's like, you know, a lot of people can call that gift of desperation point, you know, their higher power at one point. You know, GOD, it's the same letters as God, right? So a lot of people will articulate that with that. And it's not really about glorifying suffering, right? It's about recognizing how intense pain can be that catalyst to actually push us over the edge to get some help. And so, you know, that moment when we finally lose hope that our addiction has something for us, and that we get that willingness, right? That willingness that we need to embrace at least just the possibility that something might be out there for us other than what we've been doing, you know. And that's a very, very important part of this process, man. It's like the before Christ, after death. We talk about that with the survivor, with the surrender part. But you know, and it's really turning, you know, a lot of people think desperation isn't a gift, right? You just think about a gift of desperation, and how is desperation a gift, right? Well, a lot of people, a lot of us who know and have been there, that very moment of despair can be the very beginning of our healing, right? So we try to embrace that if we can. That's what we do in the step work, is we kind of revisit that time and why and how, and get through it and how we got through it, and then we become stronger people. So I'll pass that to you, Miss Brandi.
Thank you. I love this topic. It's a huge part of, you know, when you like throw a bunch of words out there that make you think about your recovery. This is a big one, or a phrase, whatever it is. But it, you know, desperation. If I think about the word desperation, it's like I'm, you know, desperate for something that's reckless, you know, and I guess it could be used in other ways, but for me, that's what, you know, I was desperate to get high, to be able to keep my addiction fueled, and it turned into, you know, like a desperate to not use anymore, to be different. And that's why it's kind of like, you know, I think it was one of the podcasts we did recently. What was it, like a ham and jelly sandwich or something? You know, like desperate and gift. Because it seems like it could be, they could go together, but unless you're really, you know, as reckless as most of us were, and unmanageable, powerless, I mean, it's hard to see it as a gift. I really didn't get that phrase at first, like, you know, like when everybody's smiling in treatment. Why are you smiling in treatment? We're, you know, like, this is a gift.
We're eating a ham jam sandwich right here.
Yeah, right.
Come on, man. Come on.
I ordered a ham and a jam, not together. And But then I was looking at some online, and it just kind of like, to break down what gift, symbolizes our present intentions, communicating our feelings words can't describe. And I thought there was a couple different ones, but I thought that just seemed so beautiful. It's symbolizing our
Definitely.
current, our current intentions. And, like yeah, when it came to me, like I've run with that gift of desperation, because I feel like it's what, for me personally, why I don't have a desire to use. I was so desperate when I came into this program. Like I didn't think I had any other path. So it's an amazing foundation to build off of. It really is. That gift of desperation has is what fueled me into my recovery. And I'm eternally grateful for it, and will always lean on it and remember those moments. So great topic.
I love that. I was, yeah, when you gave me the choice of those two things yesterday, I was like, this one,
Yeah,
this
it's
one.
great.
And boy, there's really a lot to talk about on this topic, and something that kind of goes with the gift of desperation, kind of is rock bottom.
Mhm.
And and I recently had another guest who's convinced there is no rock bottom. Like he's like, you think you feel low now? Go back out and see how much lower you can feel. And
Rock bottom has a basement.
yeah, exactly. He's like, rock bottom's got 3 parking levels underneath.
Yeah,
And
right.
I really, at first when he said that, I was a little bit like, ooh, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, that's as bottom as I want to get. But whatever you envision, it's kind of like the freedom inside the program. Like I never saw a freedom like I have now. I couldn't even
Mhm.
envision how I would feel like this. So there's
Right.
definitely hells I haven't envisioned either, you know. And then these other two speakers, this guy and his sponsee, they go around and talk at these conferences and stuff about the steps. And one of the things that they talk about is, first of all, like originally when the 12 steps were created, it had like a 50% success rate. So they're like, what's gone wrong in the program for it to be such a less success rate for people out there? And part of it is in their mind is that when you read the original AA book, which is really the first presentation of the steps. I'm not
Yep.
picking I'm not picking a denomination over any one over the other, but it's just that started out with that success rate, and here we are now today. So they're kind of trying to get to the root of that. And when they do that, one of the things they see is the speed in which people went through the steps. And what it is that in their mind and their belief is that there is a certain willingness generated by the gift of desperation. But that gift has like a life cycle of 1 to 6 weeks. So if you can't spark some spiritual awakening inside that 1 to 6 weeks, there's a good chance that person's just going to be lost again.
Mm.
And so I just thought that was an interesting spin on it, and I'm super looking forward to today. First of all,
Yeah.
if nobody's told you they love you today, this guy loves both you guys,
I
and
love you.
and and honestly, I look forward to every time we get together. I experience
Yep.
joy while we're together, and I reminisce about it the rest of the day afterwards. So, thank you for being one of the highlights of my days, guys. And
You
I'll
too.
pass it to Andrew to ask a question to you, Brandi.
Yep.
Love you back, Milan. Love you back, man. Love you back. All right, Brandy. So, how has your understanding of desperation changed since you've gotten clean?
Um, it's I've been able to, in active addiction, I didn't understand the desperation of anything. I just knew the want and the need for more, really, and to keep whatever cycle of wreckage I was creating going. And like maybe it was more like if I was breaking down, like, yeah, I was desperate to get what I needed, but then today, it's a different kind of desperate. I mean, it's not desperate, but it's like a different way of looking at it. Like for me, it's more of a passion, like I know where my gift of desperation and my rock bottom got me for sure. And because of that, I'll be able to always kind of turn to it, but it isn't, it's not a desperate anymore. I am desperate to stay clean, that's for sure. but it's not, I'm not a slave to it anymore. I'm not a slave to the word desperate. It's more, I've been able to turn it more into a passion and a want. And, and a get to, instead of having to be, like, man, I could really fucking use some shit. Instead it's like, you were itching your neck at the same time.
I know, it's like shaved too close on this side today.
Yeah, me too. But it's, but it's, so my perspective of it has changed in a way of like, it is really is a part of who I am and, a part of my story, but I don't have to look at it in a desperate way anymore. That's what this program and my recovery has given me, that, I can want and need things, that are more logical, instead of, trying to lie and steal and manipulate in order to be able to fulfill my needs that I thought that were real, that I was desperate to fill. So it's a beautiful journey, really, through that whole, like you were riding the wave of desperation to be where I am today.
Woo!
You're right. Hands in the air. That I'm internally grateful for it. Like I've said before, like I'm very grateful for my rock bottom. It was hell and it was horrible. I don't want to feel like that again, but I'm grateful for it. So I'm grateful for my gift of desperation. And what you're saying about like it being have like a window, um, when to jump on it. Like I think that is true, for a lot, because it's that spark, and it doesn't mean that it's a guarantee that's how it's going to go. But if there's like the odds, your odds aren't as good maybe after the 6 weeks or so. But that's when it's fresh. It's when it's fresh in you. And I remember praying, and I'm not a big on my knee prayers because I can't. It's hard to get back up. I'm going to be honest. So before I went to treatment, before I left my house, I got on my knees and I prayed, and I feel like that even though I didn't get clean right away, I feel like that's when the seed was planted of that gift of desperation, because it's a huge part of, because at that point it wasn't really in my hands anymore. I mean, physically it still was for a couple weeks, but you know, that it was already starting to manifest itself into me realizing that it was a gift. So I'll leave it right there.
That's
Love
beautiful.
that.
That's beautiful. All right, Milan.
Más despacio, por favor, señor.
Sí. Más les veces. How has your understand? I'm sorry, I'm retarded. How has your understanding of desperation changed since you've gotten clean?
So, man, like, this topic really takes me back to the turning point, where life was literally insane, unmanageable, going downhill really fast physically. And, you know, waking up or going through that night where like I died, and waking up and knowing that it was over, and I didn't know how it was going to happen, right? But I think about desperation was like the ultimate vehicle for me for the how of the program, the honesty, open minded, and willingness. Like I had successfully in my mind been lying to so many family members and friends about where my addiction was at. But when I rolled into a hospital and heart stops, cat's out of the frickin' bag. Like there's no like, oh, I'm just a dabbler. Like,
Yeah, just this
like,
once.
this is
Yeah.
whatever it is. But I felt like it was like, okay, like your problems here out in the open now. And so, that sparked some honest conversations,
Mhm.
and some self-honesty that, like that I can't manage this anymore. Like
Yeah.
it really just made step one, like step one was like I felt like, whoa, I'm 100% there. The second I saw step one after that event, there were like I felt completely powerless. But it was like then, I needed something that was going to last past my gift of desperation. Like I know from myself, I had been in places where I was hurting before, where I had hurt people, where I swore up and down I was never going to use again. And then there I was using again. So I
Yeah.
knew my little plan of attack sucked. And so I remember, like, I'm like, man, I really wish it didn't say God in the 12 steps because I'm going in this treatment center. They're talking that. But I'm like, at this point, my mind is open. Like, I'm like, whatever it is, you know what? If this helps keep me alive, we can talk a little bit of God, but just not like fully committing, you know, and then my willingness. And it was like, whatever you say to do that's going to keep me alive and keep me from going back to that night, I was there. And so, you know, it really, that's why it is the gift of desperation,
Mm-hmm.
because it also could be called the gift of life, you know, because it
Facts.
really was the difference between my life and my death. Because my health was really so bad at that point, like, you know,
Yeah.
like my heart wasn't doing good, smoking, and like, you know, like when I would stay up for days on days, my like half a pack a day smoking would turn into like 3 packs a day sometimes,
Mm.
because it was like the drugs made me like a compulsive smoker. It was like I would be
Yeah.
thinking about my next smoke while I'm having my smoke. And it really, in the last couple of years, just really was wrecking my breathing and my circulation. And I just wasn't as active when I was high as I was when I was younger. Like, it was just getting to more kind of sitting and flexing and like just weird
Yeah.
things like that. And it wasn't good. And so, you know, my view of desperation evolving um, into recovery was that, you know, it went from scared to grateful for it. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really have an infinite gratitude for things going so wrong at that point, because without that, I would not have had a turning point. I would not have had,
Right.
I would have just continued and died. And it really was that, like, there was no middle coming up. I've never been a medium, on or off,
Yeah.
living or dead.
Mhm.
You know, like,
Yeah.
that was it. I'll leave that there. Maybe I
I
went on
feel
too
that.
long. I don't even know.
No, you're good, man.
No, that was
I
great.
was
I could feel
sitting
it.
back listening, man. That was good. That was beautiful. I love you. I love
Love
you,
you
Milan. I
too.
love you too, Brandy. All right. So what, Andrew, how's my understanding of desperation changed since I've gotten clean? Well, I kind of think about it like this, like it went from a source of shame to being like a starting point in my life, man. You know, it was almost like you know, it sparked that change, man. It sparked everything. It was kind of like, you know, you talk about a big bang theory or something like that. People talk about shit just happening, right? Like that was my moment. Um, where I stopped letting like the disease handle every thought process that I had going on,
Mm.
right?
I
I was
agree.
actually listening to these people that have been trying to get me in treatment for so long. I finally just went like, okay, where do you like what car do you want me to get into? You know, and that's a man, like thinking about it, you really don't you can't get appreciation for that moment until looking back on it, right? If you
Yeah.
you know that point of desperation, man, if you're able to hold on to it long enough to stay in that treatment center, not leave or whatever, right? I hear all these stories about people busting up out of treatment centers and bro, you're gonna regret that shit if you do. If you do something like that, you're gonna regret that. So in terms of that point, that starting point in my life, um I now look at it as like the birthplace of my strength
Yeah.
almost, right? Like it was
Or
the
who
birth.
you are now. Yeah.
Yes, it was the
Mm-hmm.
birthplace of where I started this journey officially, like my official start to this thing. And that point of desperation is something that I don't, you know, it's not that I don't want to feel that kind of desperation anymore, but I'm trying to bring it home with what I'm trying to foster a little bit of that now, because and it's almost like desperation for like spiritual growth now. You
Yeah.
with me? So
Yeah.
now that I'm getting a little clean time under my belt, I try to foster that feeling in a way where I'm now trying to stay hungry spiritually, man. I'm trying to stay to where I'm tapped into him, and I'm needing to be able to gain access to that point in my to that part of my life more often now, so that I don't have to so that I don't find myself back out there
Wow.
you know and that's how I started thinking about that question, and it really came full circle for me, man. Like desperation has a different meaning to me. It's not something to be ashamed of anymore. You know,
Right.
it allows me, you know, what is it I had written down? I had to be fully broken down, you know, or to be able to strategize my way into my recovery. To be able to surrender, I had to hit that point of desperation to know what that word surrender means.
Right.
And we know, or I'm not going to be able to surrender anything if I don't hit that point, you know, because I've been running this thing into the ground for a long time, man. There's nothing else outside, nothing inside of me or that can touch me at the current moment that's going to get me to shift my thought process except that point of desperation. There's nothing
Yeah.
else that's going to do it. There's nothing else. And as an addict, I'll keep it on me. You can't tell me shit. Like if you're going to tell me how to do something, I'll figure out how to do it. And it'll probably be the way you said it, but I'm gonna figure it out like my own. It's gonna be my own idea, whatever it is. And to a fault, man, to a fault. I'll run this
Yeah.
thing into the ground on that notion. But um grateful for that point of desperation to be able to shut the fuck up shut my head down for a little while and just sit down and give into the process, man, because if I did not have that point, I feel like I had a bunch of those points. I just never was able to latch on to it. Right. It never hit me hard enough where I was completely broke. But when it finally did, man, I don't want to feel that kind of desperation anymore. I want to tap into it in a healthy way to stay on
Yeah.
that higher plane, because that shit will reach up and grab me at any point, man. I'm fully aware of that shit because my character defects they're living. They're alive and well.
Yeah. They don't go away. I
They
learned
don't
that
go
when you
away,
get
bro. They're
clean.
alive
Nope.
and well. We don't
They're
have drugs
amplified, if anything.
to just put on top of it and go, we'll deal with it later. No, it's like it's
Yeah.
here. So I'll pass that to you, Brandi, to ask Milan a question.
All right. All right. Um, so how has your gift of desperation motivated you to drastically change your life?
Whew, wow. Like, I mean, it literally made me willing to throw out my whole previous life. You know, like other than my family, my life is entirely different right now. It
Mm,
uh it opened my mind to the fact that I really didn't have a great grip on what life was about. And myself, what I was like, what any of my motives were, what any of the actual parts in my actions were, and how little I was actually living presently.
yeah.
You know, like the thing about, you know, once you really dive into the steps and you see a big part of it is about, you know, conscious contact and that only occurring in the present moment. And man, I was like surrendering nothing, accepting nothing, trapped in the pain of yesterday and worrying about tomorrow. You know, like, and that's just, it's not my story anymore. You know, it's not like, I mean, I'm really, you know, I'm tired today, which normally would be like the absolute jerkiest moment in Milan. And I've had a pretty good, reasonable morning. You know, I've had a
Yeah.
couple big walks. I was working on a song, spent a little time with Michelle. Here we are. Now I'm with two amazing friends talking about recovery. You know, like right there, like that is not a morning I had before. I wasn't getting up
Oh man.
exercising. I was lucky to have had an hour or two of sleep. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I was taking the dogs as short of a distance as I could because I wanted to get back to whatever. And yeah, and I definitely wasn't running a podcast on recovery. That was,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
like
a
think of the
fact.
three of us, like
Yeah.
little time travel, and we're sitting in a room, okay, like 5 years ago.
I was say 5 years ago.
Yeah, well, because I wanted to make sure that everybody was still
Yep.
sitting in a room.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
5 years ago, and we turned to everybody in the room at some big party we're at, and we're like, I can't wait till I'm hosting on a podcast about recovery.
I would have been like, put it down, bro. Put it down.
Oh man.
Like, can you imagine, like
Yeah.
what the convert, like people's looks, and for me, like I'm just,
Like we need to pat you down, boy. We need to pat you
yeah.
down.
That's right. Like I like when I'm talking to some people who I haven't talked to very much in recovery, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing a podcast on recovery. And they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, we're
Check it
talking
out.
about recovery on a podcast. And they're like, yeah, I can see it. I'm like, I ain't sending you the link. I'm like, I ain't sending you. I'm like, you ain't
Yeah,
even
I
getting
get
the
it.
link.
Yeah, you don't get it
Information on
either.
recovery. Information on recovery. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get
Yeah, they're like, that ain't gonna be fun.
it.
Anyway, I
For
think I'll
us, we
leave that
can't get
there.
enough of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We
me
can't,
neither.
yeah. To me, I'm like, there's always something to talk about. You can always talk about it twice, really.
Always.
Revisit it kind of thing. Okay, Andrew, how has
Yes.
your gift of desperation motivated you to drastically change your life?
Well, I'll just kind of continue with my conversation, man. It was, man, it was the initial spark of everything, right? Like if I think about the word strength now as it relates to my life now, it's a lot different than it was when I was in active addiction, right? That word strength is a completely different thing to me today. And that point of desperation, that gift that we call that point of desperation, was the catalyst, was the blasting off point, if you will, for that foundation, right? We talk about building a foundation here, and we got to do a lot of work to build a foundation. Like if you think about someone who builds a house, right? If you've ever seen that process, like they plan the lot out, right? That they figure out if they can dig on it, and they get contractors in there and they dig that shit out. They whatever they got to do, excavate it. There's a lot of shit that goes into doing that. Well, that point of desperation was all those machines that dug out for that foundation of love and humility that I now have built my house on, my foundation house on. So it's really it's one of those things that if you can grasp onto that feeling and understand what it can do for you in the moment, which I think it's really hard to do. I'm thinking about how I would do that, and I don't know if you can do that really, and at least a little time down the road, a week down the road, you can look at that point and go, that was that spot, man. That was that spot,
Yeah.
that is the reason why I haven't left treatment today or whatever it is. But at that time when you're in it, there's no way to see it. That's how magical it is. I don't think there's any way to see it in that moment. Like you can feel shitty and the world hates you and all that. Like you can feel all that. But to feel that it's a gift in the moment, I don't think you can. And y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but thinking about it now, I don't think you can. And so that's great that we're bringing awareness to this. It's really, really cool. We're bringing awareness to this in a whole layered way like this, because I've never really thought about it to that point where it was that initial blast off for me. And you said it, Milan, the rest of my life. That was a blast off to my life, man. Just to be able to process my way into another way of life, man, because I had no other thought processes other than the substances, man. Everything revolved around the substances. Yeah, I had a job and I was a working, functioning addict, all that stuff, but I was just going more and more and more. And when I was hurting, I would take more, and when I was need to sleep, I would do more or do the other. It was just it was a joke, man. It was a joke. I was just running on simple substances completely. There was no like, Andrew feels good today because he's rested. He's gonna work and be in a good mood today because he slept well last night. What was that? That's no, that wasn't the case. There was never that the case, right? It was always contingent on the shit that we talk about, the shit that we're coming out of, the shit that point of desperation got me out of. So I love that we're bringing awareness to this point today, and I'll pass that, man. That was a great question.
All right.
You are muted.
Oh, wait.
I want to add one thing to what you were saying there, is that it really felt like a gift right from the start for me. Like, because I had that squirrel cage running on more. And the second I had that moment in the hospital and I woke up, that was gone. And it was just like, how do I get better? And so I felt like it was a gift right from the start. It was that night to get there to that morning, like to get right to the bottom. That was scary, fucking shitty, not fun. But the next day, I was like, and I couldn't understand why nobody else was happy for me because they were all mad at me for dying.
You're like, but I've changed.
I'm like, this is different now,
I
and they're
feel
like,
it. I feel it.
Yeah,
I
this is
feel
different
it.
now.
I can see.
That's
Oh,
funny.
shoot. That was a great little add to it because I feel the same way. So how has my gift of desperation motivated me to drastically change my life? You know, kind of like what you're just saying, like when I feel like, you know, that seed was planted when I got on my knees and I just was like, because when I prayed, I was like, I used for so many years and I was like, I don't want to desire this. I don't want to crave it. I don't want it to taste good. I don't want to fantasize over it. Like I just want it out. And again, I was still holding and high but it was that moment. I was desperate to stop doing what I was doing. But, you know, I had to that wasn't that second though, that's for sure. But when I got into treatment, when it was finally I went to my grandparents' house because it's just where most of us have gone to get clean. And I went to treatment, um, and I had to, you know, because it was all happening so fast, really, to me that like it took me about a day of sleeping and crying until I woke up in treatment, and I was like I don't want to, I haven't used for this many hours, and I don't want to do it again. I don't want to, and so I just like told myself that I'm just gonna just learn as much as I can. I'm gonna get whatever I can get out of these 28 days, and I'm gonna go for it. Like I'm just gonna just try not to use, and I feel like that it motivated me so much to eventually choose to not do any drugs at all because I was, you know, what was it said in here the other day as a California sober, you know, like I was picking and choosing my recovery. I have a little bit of this and none of that. And, but you know, like this all the time. And, but this like newfound, desire to not use drugs was overwhelming in such a way that I don't think I'd ever really felt before. And and it's like then at that point I had to kind of, you know, I was so afraid that everybody was going to know that I was high that I didn't want to do anything. I didn't like want to change anything. I didn't want to tell anybody. That when I got into treatment and I found this like new way of thinking and new way of life, a new thought process, I didn't care who knew at all, you know, because it's like it's the gift of it, you know. I'm not ashamed to be desperate, have a gift of desperation to not use drugs, not at all. And every time I found out something new about myself, it made me want to go even further and further. And that's where I think I developed and realized that, you know, after hearing it and trying to analyze that sentence, you know, gift of desperation, what it really meant and how truly it was a huge gift for me. And it motivated me in so many different ways. Because if I wasn't as desperate as I was when I got in there, I don't know if I would have taken it to the fullest, you know, because I've thought the process of like, man, I wish I'd have done this sooner, but I wouldn't have been ready. I wasn't there. I wasn't at the rock bottom, desperate, gonna lose everything, you know, like all these different factors. It just wasn't there yet. And like I didn't want to use, you know, I knew I was doing wrong, but I wasn't desperate to quit. And when that feeling hit, like you were saying, Andrew, it's like the catalyst of my recovery. You know, like who knew that I could go on and do life clean and enjoy it. And when I don't enjoy it,
Ooh.
I can feel it and go through it. Like I never thought that that was a life that was dealt for me at all. And you know, so like I hold that near and dear. And though, like you also were saying, Andrew, like I lean on it. I lean on that feeling if I ever need to, because I want to remember that desperate feeling of change, because it's so different today. It's so different today. You know, everything's not perfect, but it's great, you know. And when I say not perfect, it's because I'm not stealing and lying and you know, doing whatever I can to get high.
Looking around your
You know,
shoulder. Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
who's
Oh
calling me?
man. Yeah, exactly. I remember sitting in the living room and having a mirror perfectly so I didn't have to go like this anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
come on, man. It's
yeah.
crazy.
And it motivated me also to be a better wife and a better mother and a better Brandi, because there's people that didn't know the depths of my disease, and they had this like vision of me, and I was nothing like that. And so it's allowed me to be who I am, and allowed me to be able to still want to learn and still move forward and get uncomfortable, yeah, I love the whole gift of desperation and rock bottom. And it seems like a weird thing to say to some people that maybe haven't hit it yet, but it is truly a blessing and a gift. So
Oh,
I hope it always motivates me.
bro, it allows you to be, it allows you to show your family who you were again. Like actually who you actually
Yeah.
were as a human being. Like it's a
Yeah.
beautiful,
Well,
man.
and even with, almost 4 years, there's things that have come out. Like, when I first got clean, it wasn't like, let me just tell you my whole life story. Let me give you my journal of shit. And, and so it's like, there's people that are close to my life that I've now told that, well, I was actually doing that particular thing for 10 years. They think it was just a little bit here
What?
and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I just told my daughter how I actually broke my leg, and she laughed at me because it was stupid. And then she hugged me because she was grateful that felt like I could tell her. So there's just things that also continually I allow people in more and more. And that's remembering how I don't ever want to be again.
Keeps
Like
you
I
humble.
want to, yeah, yeah,
Keeps you humble.
yeah,
We neither close the door on the past, or what is it? We neither dwell on the past nor close the door on it.
Yeah.
And
yes,
that's where I believe we can keep the strength of that gift of desperation.
Yeah.
yeah.
Is not
Makes
dwelling
us who
on
we
it,
are.
but not forgetting it either.
Yeah,
Like almost every time I see a newcomer hit the rock bottom, I'm like, oh God, yeah.
Or somebody
yeah.
that
I
struggles
remember
to get
that.
that, that 90, 100-day wonder, they struggle to get that 90 days and they go back out, try to get that 100 days and they continuously go back out and you're like, damn, we know a few of them, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah,
man, you got a high tolerance for pain.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like because
Right.
it really is. And I remember when someone said that, they were like, unfortunately, I had a high tolerance for pain. And I'm like, me too. Like I had a
Yeah.
37 high year tolerance of pain.
And just please keep coming back because this thing will
Yeah,
eventually work. I'm telling you. I
that's
know
right.
It
for a
will.
fact.
If I can say for the three people here right now, if we can get clean, you can get clean.
Big
No matter
facts.
what
We,
your journey is or your process is, it's like the first time in
Big.
here or 10th time in here, we
We
do
can say that.
recover.
any one of the three of us is willing to help you or have a phone call.
Yes,
Yep.
100%.
Okay, I've got a good couple questions. I got a question, but I'm starting with one. Okay, Mr. Andrew,
Okay.
I
close
hope
your
so.
eyes and picture yourself. How do you
Mm.
recognize the difference between desperation that destroys and desperation that awakens?
Wow, desperation that awakens motivates action. Desperation that awakens fosters willingness. Off the top of my head, desperation, the good that good desperation cultivates gratitude.
Mhm.
The that desperation that we can tap into on the positive side will like we just said promotes humility, keeps us humble, there. That desperation that you're talking about, the other side of that, Milan, will
That
take us
destroys.
right. That shit is that's that moment when you wake up in active addiction and you have no way out, you have no money. You would call somebody if you could to get some drugs, but you can't because you don't have any money. And bro, that point, and you're not ready to come out of this disease yet either, right? You're just like in this spot where you have people that want to help you but you don't want the help. You have drug dealers that could give you drugs but you can't get the drugs because you ain't got no money. you you have all these things. That's when people start thinking about stealing things from, like that's when it gets really grimy. That's that really
Mhm.
grimy point that maybe the God of our understanding hasn't allowed us to tap into that true point of desperation. But man, that's that really grimy area that you don't want to jump over that fence, man, because you just don't want to come out and say you're an addict.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you'll do a lot of shit because you just don't want to come out and say, bro, like, dad, pops, mom, I'm an addict. I'm a drug addict. I got a problem with drugs. And we'll go through a lot before we finally give into that courageous act. And again, that point of desperation, you know, just have the positive aspects, you know, motivates me to get up every morning, right? That point of desperation motivates me to stay alive, man, and continue this upward trajectory. You know, desperation is a compass for me today, almost like it's like a like I can feel how desperate I am in a situation and know where I'm at with it, right? And it keeps me tapped in, man, to the God of my understanding. You know, God, gift of desperation, group of drug addicts, get off drugs, the great outdoors. You know, I know Milan's starting to pray in the great outdoors, and he's getting answers like immediately. Whoosh. So look, man.
Literally whooshing.
That was
Right.
great.
And then another whoosh.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Look at these things. We don't make this shit up, man. We come in here and we talk about this stuff. So maybe it'll give you some kind of point to lean on to whatever feeling you're feeling right now, man. If you're struggling to find these rooms and to find out what we're talking about, like continue to just listen, listen in and listen and try to tap into what we're saying, because that's why we're doing this, man. That's why we're doing this. If there's one person out here listening to this thing staying clean today because maybe they heard something in a podcast, bro, like that's a life changer for me. You know, it makes everything that I'm doing worth it.
Mm.
And so that point of desperation continues to be able to keep my family in my life, my loved ones, you guys, right? Like it keeps me on my toes in a positive way now. I no longer let like my past imprison me and shit, right? It's my reference guide now. My reference guide. I can go back and reference what I did wrong and go, okay, I can be a little bit better today, and work at the opposite of that, right? Being early instead of late, Milan. Don't even call me out.
Yeah.
Oh
You
no, no.
know,
Frank, literally, you made my heart warm. Roll in a couple minutes early today.
I
I want
love
to
you, man.
express
He
gratitude
got
for
here
that,
before me.
man.
I did. I was
I'll-
getting ready to play a trick on you. I was gonna say before Brandi gets here, like say something like we like play a trick on you
I
before you
put
got
up
here.
the participants list though, so you can't sneak in on me. I'm too sneaky.
I got in here.
I think about that. I think about that when you said it before, because I'm notoriously late, or I'll get there right on the dot, and then something happens and I'm late or whatever. Like, instead of trying to not be late, I'm just gonna try to be on time, or try to be
Yeah.
early, I think is what
Try
you
to be,
said.
yeah,
And I
no,
was
yeah,
like,
it's yeah, exactly. It's try to be, yeah.
and that I've held on to that when I very first ever heard you say it, because I'm
It's a simple
notorious for
switch,
it.
man. It's a simple switch. It's a simple
Yeah.
switch. So it's beautiful.
Love
Yeah.
I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, Brandy, how do you recognize the difference between desperation that destroys and desperation that awakens?
Woo. I like how you said that. Kind of like what I was saying, that, desperation that destroys was definitely during that act of addiction, when I didn't look at it as a gift or whatever, acknowledge it as a gift. The wanting and needing to get more and at any cost, I went as far as like, I broke into the safe, which I now have the combination to, you guys. That's taken a lot of years. I don't need to get in it, but
I have a
that's
safe story
where,
too for later to remind me.
and that's where, like, in the moment, that's where my husband would put it. And because I usually stole it from my mom, and for whatever reason, he was going to give it back to her. That's probably a whole nother podcast. But, and I remember like swearing to God I would never do it again. It'd be in my pocket, like that's the kind of like reckoning desperation. And, to be able to see the difference. That's why I think I call it more of like a passion. Like I can say, yeah, I'm desperate in my recovery to stay clean today. But it's I think with desperate in that way, like I have the tools today that I didn't have then. I have the ability, when I was desperate to get high, I didn't have the ability to not get high. And I didn't have the tools to not do what I was doing. And today, like I have all that stuff. And so I feel like it does, though it's still a desperation of a sense, it's more of a passion. And to look at it like that, because I'm a black and white kind of person, which isn't always the best, but if I look at it like that, it's like there's the difference in it. My motives are different today. and what my goals, my future, even if I'm just planning today only, it's way different than when it was the desperation of destruction,
Yeah.
because I was willing to lose everything that I had, and thank God I still have today, just to get high, just for one more. And so irresponsible as a parent, and never, I mean, I put my kids, I mean, I guess you could say danger. I drove a lot with them, and I wasn't I wasn't I wasn't clean for 30 years. So, but like all that stuff is, I was not even just destructing my life, but everybody around me. And today it's I don't put them in that kind of area. I don't put them in that kind of situation. So if I step back and look at it, it is like night and day. And would I be able to see it like that if I didn't feel as desperate as I did in the beginning? Maybe, I mean, for me personally, maybe, but I don't think I would have felt it like that right away, the way I feel like I did, if I didn't get as low as I did, if I didn't let it ruin my life as much as it did. um I don't know, like, if I think we all recover, I do believe that, but I feel like for my situation, I feel like I hit that pretty early in the desire to not ever use again because of the destruction. And it's got me just motivated and passionate, and like I got recovery fever. We're just gonna say it like
Woo-hoo.
that.
I was gonna, I didn't want to butt in, but I was like, I'm smelling recovery fever.
Yeah. Yeah, I
She's
mean,
burning up.
Burning up,
I've
boy.
never been so committed to anything, I mean, in my life. And
Feels good.
it does, like I always set myself, at a lower bar than everybody else. So I never thought I was like could ever, be accomplish anything. And it's in recovery and being able to, speak my words, and people feel like people can hear me. It's a different, and I'm grateful for it for sure. And it's because of that gift of desperation. 100%. That's my answer.
We
Love
command
that.
respect today, Brandi. We command
That's
respect.
right.
Ooh.
Right.
How do
Respect your
I
authority.
recognize the difference between desperation that destroys and desperation that awakens? Like when I saw the desperation that destroys, like it just makes me think of the countless people I would hurt in order to just keep rolling the way I wanted to roll. Like, and it
Yeah.
was first of all, the desperation that destroys was inconsiderate, 100% inconsiderate, 100% self-serving, but also like almost disregarding of life, my own especially. Like that desperation that destroys. The first person I was going to kill was me. Like just from the abuse of it. And then in the desperation that awakens, it was like I wanted any solution that could get me better. I had no clue of the level of what better would mean. I was
Mm.
just looking for a way to go to parties and enjoy myself straight.
Be normal.
Like,
Yeah.
like I remember, I'm like, oh, they're gonna have like, I was in my mind in treatment, we were gonna have like these simulated parties, like, and it was like, how to be like, okay, walking into a party, like,
Straight.
you
Yeah.
maybe, like I passed 5 fake
Yeah.
parties and now I could go to a real one.
I was going to say, did I pass the test, Teach? Did I pass the test?
Yeah.
I could get through
Yeah.
the
But yeah,
exercise. That's funny.
but like the desperation that awakened, it was just like I knew there was change. I knew
Mm.
that I wanted life. I knew that I was willing to work for it. Like desperation that destroys was a real taker thing, you know? And the desperation that awakened, it was just it's been different right from the start, and fortunately, man, I got into that treatment center as quickly as I needed to, and they put me to work right away. Like I was almost ticked off with how slow I was getting taught right away in there. Like they loaded me
Yeah.
up, but I was just like, "Come on, man, I'm done. Step one, give me
Yeah.
two, give me two, give me two, give me
I
two."
need recovery now.
They're
Recovery
like,
now.
They're like,
Yeah.
are you really powerless when you're trying to control this whole situation? And I'm like,
Yeah.
Have you
I
talked to
sh-
God this morning?
yeah, no, I hadn't. And oh my gosh, yeah, like, I just think though that there was two, like near the end, I was also desperately wanting to not be using, and really, I really was powerless over my addiction. Like the number of times I watched myself be like, oh, this is, you shouldn't be doing this, you could barely fucking breathe, blah 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 blah, and it was just like continued. And that
Yeah.
really was it was horrifying to watch. Like some nights I'm just like, I remember just the absolute, like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I,
Yes. Oh man.
but not hesitating in the action at all, but like right up here in the observer voice in my brain was like, what are you doing? And then I'm just like, just another one, just wait a second here. Like, it was bad, man.
It's funny.
I'm gonna leave that one there. It's Andrew's up.
Yes. Are you ready, Miss Brandy?
Yes.
How do you stay connected to the desperation that brought you in? Now that you're in
Um,
recovery.
I stay connected with it. Like they say, like don't like if you don't, what was it, like you don't like you always remember the last day you used. I feel like I was gonna say something else, but it didn't make so much sense. But anyways, I try to just remember that feeling of before, the feeling that I had brought myself to. I remember the day that my husband was like, "You've been doing this shit for 10 years." And I really thought it was a couple years. I really did. I didn't think it's been 10 years, And so it's like those moments like that. Like I do, oh, my line, sorry. Um, I do try to, keep those, not front and center, but definitely a huge tool in my recovery. Because if I sit there and think that, it wasn't that bad getting here, like I it could have been worse. I didn't lose this or that, um, then I'm who knows what track I'm going to go down. Like it's like almost a challenge to myself. Well, maybe you could lose it. Let's see if you can lose it. So for me to be able to hold on to it as a tool, in my back pocket, not to make myself feel shitty or to reminisce on the bad parts to it, but really for what it's given me. And I will always, like, it will always be a big part of my like I was saying, if I threw a bunch of words out on the table that meant huge to my recovery, that would be a big one. Just like my first step, hands down. Those are the things that I keep close. Because I had to really drag myself through the dirt in order to be able to see how dirty I was, because I wasn't seeing it before. And so when I'm grateful for it, like grateful for my rock bottom and that stuff, I definitely, remind myself when needed, of course, and don't deny it. Don't deny what it was. I want to share people my experience with it. So, to see like it's a real thing. It can be a gift if you want it to be. Where we all come in here desperate, and if you don't, then more power to you. But this is something that we can choose to keep with us and choose to use and choose to grow off of. And I think it's important to, like everything we've been through has made us who we are today. And then today will make us see who we are tomorrow. And so to deny the benefits of those moments, you're not doing justice to your recovery at all. And like I said, like I'm grateful for the moment that I had to say I'm an addict. I had to tell everybody that it's just in a rough patch. I obviously can't handle my shit, and I am an addict. Because there's like in my mind there was a difference in, like, I just use a lot. I just use more than you. Like I'm not really that bad. And that when I went to treatment and it was broken down to me, that's when I knew they wrote that book about me. I was textbook. Like there's no
Boop.
denying it anymore. Like, yeah. So
I like the whole shit.
right. So I definitely just I let that be a big part of my story. and it's because it's a huge part of my journey. You know, it sounds sad at first, you know, that the desperation to it, and the, you know, the gift might sugarcoat it a little bit, but really it's a big part of who I am today. So I'll leave it there.
Say, look at the smile
Love
on
that.
her face. Yeah, I love that.
All
I love
right.
that. I love that. All right, Mr. Milan, how do you stay connected with that all so vital, like this point of desperation that brought you in here? How do you stay connected to it? Positive way.
So I used to have 100% photographic memory, but drugs definitely damaged that. Oh, I know. And when you say it, it's like I remember it, dude. I remember it. And I remember smoking weed, or smoking oil, not weed, but hash oil, when I was 15. And it was like for 4 days after it disappeared. And I was like, oh. And then I'm like, well, I don't know if I really care that much about it anyway. Like, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but you know, like how I stay connected to that gift of desperation is really the moment that I got to that point where I was dying. It's like, man, I remember that free fall into the darkness, that fear, that exact feeling, and I can just like click, close my eyes, and I'm there. Like
Yeah.
not even not even a millisecond delay. And fortunately for me, you know, it's like I cut myself with a chainsaw one time, and when that chainsaw hit my skin, it went grip, but I
Yeah.
didn't hear it through my ears. I heard it through my body. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget that feeling of
Oh
thinking,
God.
like of thinking
Yeah.
how much of me is left there. And it's the same thing. It's the same, exact same thing with the gift of desperation of my pivotal point towards recovery. Like I just close my eyes and I'm right there, scared shitless, never want to go back, emptiest place in the world, no light at the end of that
Mm.
tunnel. And so it really is just for me, it's as simple as closing my eyes. And I'm like, I'm there's things in this world that I think are healthy fears. And, you know, getting cut open with a chainsaw, dying from using
Yeah.
drugs, like they're things that you shouldn't really want to happen over and over to yourself, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, it's really that, you know, I don't dwell there. I do not dwell there. Like I love that saying, we neither dwell in the past nor shut the door on it, because I don't dwell on it. But it's like I can go there. I could like, and when I
Yeah.
think like, you know,
Yeah.
when they say in treatment, you know, play the tape to the end. It's like that's the end of my tape every time.
Yeah.
You know, like if I think
Yeah.
about an
I like that.
adventure out there, I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, ooh, skip right past the weird things that, you know, like might be the adventure of it. And I'm right there and I'm like, no, 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 thank you. I think I'll go to another meeting. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it for
That's
me.
beautiful. That's beautiful. I was gonna say, don't drop the mic on me. You better say
Well,
something before you start
well,
taking a drink, boy.
uh,
Well, we're about to have problems. We're about to have problems up in here. I'm just kidding. I love you. You just dropped the whole thing. All right, cool. So man, you made a great point. I'm sitting here like, you know, my photographic memory. When you said that, when you talked about cutting your leg open like that, I had a boss who in front of me, I was working construction, and he was like the foreman. He never really came to the job sites, but he was like this young guy, and never really worked a saw, but was like trying to show this other kid how to work this saw this one time. And you never use a skill saw if it's not anchored onto the ground or some kind of
Yeah.
workbench. So I roll up to this job, and I'm watching this kid who's like the boss's daughter's husband, which is the only reason why he had the job. And he's sitting there with one piece of the wood on his leg and the other piece in his hand, right? And look, man, this thing, and you know, because it backfires, right? So this dude, look, it went right into this dude's. I'm talking right into his.
Oh my
I'm
God.
talking thick into his thigh. And
oh,
bro,
I can feel that.
you
Yeah.
and so I'm not even gonna. The dude lived. He was okay. The ambulance came, but he was an inch from dying because he almost hit his, what is that, femoral artery or whatever that
Femoral
is.
artery.
Mm-hmm.
But he was gushing, bro. I mean, he was out, and but they got to him. They got him in time. He's alive. But that initial feeling, man, when you said that that is really another level to how I'm going to start thinking about it, because that is a really great point, especially with my photographic memory and my memory, because man, it hurts right now. My whole body hurts right now. And when I hit that point of desperation where I finally said, man, like, I don't care, what time are they going to be here to pick me up? Like, that's kind of the same feeling almost, because it was a slower roll into it, right? It's not like my leg is cut open, right? But that point where I had to it was like jumping off a bridge, man. I had to jump off that bridge. And then I had people around me going, all the celebrities are doing it, and I'm like, I don't fucking, leave me alone. Like, I hate all of you. I hate all of you, right? People trying to justify me doing it and going into it, and whatever it takes is whatever it takes, man. But I guess to answer my
Yeah.
question, let me get back onto the thing. I stay in service. I try to share my message. I try to turn my mess into a message, and I try to share my story, and it keeps me connected to that feeling that I had. I sponsor a couple young men, right? I sponsor people. I'm of service work keeps me connected to that point of desperation. It keeps me tapped into the newcomers that want to be of service,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people who are falling off a lot, or whatever we try to bring them people up. We try to bring them in and get them in service in any way possible. We have service positions that you don't need clean time, right? We try to bring them in and nestle them into the middle of the crowd that way. It's just really a special thing, because people think that this is like a cut and dry program,
Yeah.
but there's so many levels and layers to be able to help you find what you need to avenue your way through life and stay clean doing it. And there's so many ways that you can take this road, right? Picking your sponsor, being of service, all these things that you can do to hold yourself accountable to yourself and your family and your loved ones, and be able to not be that person that you were. This
Yeah.
program has
Right.
done everything for me, man. This program has shown me everything, right? And so it showed me how precious time is. Time, we talk about it a lot. I do. It's the only currency we spend without knowing that ending balance, man. Because if we can stay tapped into that point of desperation in a good way, I can be more spiritually conditioned to stay consciously connected, right? Like it all goes together, right? If I'm spiritually connected, I'm gonna be more apt to getting that daily reprieve, right? That daily stay of execution from my disease. So I'm gonna be with that. I'm gonna be with that any way I can. And I love that we're talking more about it, bringing more light to the point, because I think it's a good thing that newcomers especially can latch on to, because you're fresh off that feeling.
They're,
Feel that.
they're probably in the middle of it.
Feel that feeling, because you're going to want to reference this feeling as time goes by. You're really going to want to reference that feeling in a healthy way. You can tap into it. It can help you make decisions going forward, and understand why you're making that decision going forward, because you don't want to be back there. So
Yeah.
beautiful.
Love
It's a
that.
great point. It's a great point.
Yeah.
So I asked a question to Andrew.
No, to me.
All right. Oh, to you. Sorry. Okay. How does acknowledging and accepting your desperation relate to spiritual principles like surrender?
Man, like acknowledging and what was that? Accepting?
Acknowledging, accepting.
I think that I I would say I acknowledged it, and I don't even know if there was acceptance at the beginning. It was kind of like force fed. It's like, here's a watermelon,
Yeah.
swallow it. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'll do anything to puke this watermelon out. Like,
Okay.
it really was. But like it instantly, I don't know, like, okay, when I was a kid, you would fight, right? We fought a lot. And there was just like, you would fight people that you were kind of matched with, or you'd fight people you could fight well against. And then there was people who could just kill you, right?
Yeah.
And
Harry.
and when one of those guys was coming, it's like you might as well surrender. You might as well surrender, or you're probably going to get some stitches or something that you don't want. A trip to the hospital.
Cover up. Just cover up.
That's
Yeah.
right. Either run or turtle.
Yeah.
Run or
Yeah.
turtle. And I was a good
Turtle.
climber, and they couldn't always climb up the same thing. So I was out of there. And you know, and that's how I really like, I feel like I acknowledged it with my, like, it was a total surrender at that point. Like, I was just
Hmm.
like, I'm so overwhelmed by the fact that this can't go any further for me. You know,
Yeah.
like I have lots of friends who've had multiple overdoses, and I asked them all, I'm like, were you awake? Were you awake? And most of them were not through the entire thing. And I think that that was literally the reason that I have the gift of desperation I have, is that I was awake through the entire hellacious thing of my body stopping. And I just think that there is like that created an absolute surrender in me, where it's just like
Yeah.
that was an unrepeatable event where
Yeah.
I just so completely terrified me that it's like I literally have that gift of desperation to continue doing what I'm doing for the entire rest of my life. And it's not that, you know, like I think that dying when I'm older is going to be something that I fear, but it's like the untimely self imposed death from freaking not sleeping and doing drugs is not the way I want to go. You know, like
Right.
I just don't think that death has to be like that. It doesn't have to be this terrifying shutdown amidst chaos of substances. Like, it just doesn't. And so for me, you know, I don't necessarily know if I don't feel that there was acceptance at that point, you know,
Yeah.
but it was just like such an overwhelming event that it was like I was flattened, like I was KO'd in round one. And I was like, why would you get up for 15 more rounds at that point? Like, I was surrendering. I'm like,
Right.
fucking, you knocked me out. Go for it, bro. You're tough. You're
Yeah.
the best. You know? Yeah. So for me, I think that's where I'm leaving that one. But I loved that
I know
question.
somebody else that has not very many people are coherent during an overdose, and it does stick with you, and you do what you do with it. You know, it doesn't always, you know, move somebody towards a recovery or to passion for it or acknowledgement of the desperation, but I think it's an opportunity to. And
Yeah.
as much as it was a horrible experience, it does you justice today,
I
you know?
really
Yeah.
feel like I was gifted a peek into the afterlife. And whether we
Yes.
exist as spirits or not, this spirit doesn't exist as this spirit, is my firm belief. Like, I may become
Yeah.
part of a new spirit with all the millions of particles out there, and that could be a really cool mix. But Milan as the individual, I feel like will be gone. And I'm not just not ready for that yet.
And guys, if
Yeah.
you can relate to what he's saying right now, lean into that. Like if you're out there kind of trying to figure out what the hell's going on here, like, and you can relate to what he just said, like lean into that because this is
Hmm.
what you make it. This thing is what you make it, right? This is the
Yes.
beginning of that feeling of being able to like turn this thing over and like actually surrender and know
And
what
the
that means.
surrender
Yeah.
will become the ultimate tool for freedom for the rest of your life. Not
Yeah.
only
In
from
every area
substances.
of your
Yes,
life.
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
surrender is basically like the greatest thing ever, like
Yeah.
to have as part of your life.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
feel like that was one of the gifts of my desperation, was that I experienced a total surrender in one part of my life, and that has now educated me the benefits it can bring to the rest.
Bro,
Yes.
I know
Well
God's got
said.
me. Like being
Yeah.
able to hit that process of surrender and know what that is, man. Like I am so confident that God's got me. Every day I wake up in the morning, like I know he did that. Like I know
Hmm.
for a fact, bro. I know for a fact there's no other reason why I would be here other than that because I have not done anything right, right? Like there's no reason why I should be here. I'm nobody, right? Well, why me? Why me? But I can
Yeah.
lean into that now. I can lean in. I know why
Yeah.
me. I know why me. He tells me why every day. So,
Yeah. Made me
you're
think
worth
about,
it.
and then I'll ask you the question. Maybe think about the podcast that um I did with you along with a girl, I think from Canada. But anyways, it was, she said her dad said to her that you know, recovering people that stay clean or sober are God's chosen to share the message. And
Mhm.
I just thought that was like,
They're
you
the
know, because we're
vessels.
all here. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like our hardship, you know, and being, you know, where we are today, and to share it is like the purpose. You know, it's not
That's
that
why it
we went through
works.
X, Y, and Z in detail for this podcast today, but in you know, lighter terms, yeah. to share it, with other people.
Yep.
And so I feel like I've been chosen.
That's our step 12.
Society puts these doctors, these therapists, all these people that are paid all this money to fix us, right? And it's exactly why this works, because we're not those people in these rooms.
Yeah.
Because we're not paid to do this. We don't have any, there's no agenda, there's no lobbyists and things, people paying our salaries to be here. We're not like this person that went to school to learn what an addict is. Now we're sitting here and we know what an addict. No. We're here keeping ourselves alive, just trying to give this to you, because we know like the only way we continue to stay alive like this is if we give it to you. That's the only way we stay alive, right? So based on our survival, trying to keep ourselves alive, we're going to try to keep you alive too. It's a beautiful thing.
Right.
Beautiful thing.
It really is. It really is. I'm very grateful to be a part of this. Okay, Andrew, how does acknowledging and accepting your desperation relate to spiritual principles like surrender?
Man, I mean, we've been talking about it the whole time. I mean, it's that point that allows me to understand what a true surrender is, man. I mean, to be able to actually surrender to this thing, to actually be able to be in that pool and actually let go of all my faculties and learn how to float. Originally, we talked about that on the last podcast. Surrendering is like learning how to float. You know, it's the most uncomfortable thing at the beginning, because we're about to go under. And you're telling me I'm supposed to just let go of my arms and legs and stop flailing about, and that's going to keep me afloat? Are you crazy? Like, I'm going down, son. I'm going down, Mom. I'm going down. I can't breathe.
I'm going down.
You're telling me I'm just supposed to just spread out and give it up? So that's so when I got desperate enough to just let go, man, and stop the whole hustle and bustle, the man, that stopped the round, what is it, the pinwheel of like calling people, chasing people down. I owe you $20. I'll get the rest. I'll pay you 50 extra if you give it to me. Bro, it was so much goes. I mean, I worked a full-time job mentally before I even was able to wake up in the morning, man. I was working a full-time job.
Right.
And so I was never able to bring Andrew to the table in any situation. But like I just layered it. Like, that's who I was. I almost tricked myself into thinking that that's the kind of dude that I was. I was just an asshole, right? I was just this person that
it's who I am.
It's who I am.
Yeah.
And then as we really get deep into, and I'll keep it on me, as I really got into this thing, you know, you get decades into your disease, there are no good times. Like, we think that we're loaded enough, we have these good times, maybe, but there really are no good times. I remember not wanting to be like, if I didn't have drugs, hey, don't call me, don't look for me. I am nowhere to be found, bro. I do not come looking for me, because I am in the cave. And then I remember when I had all the drugs in the world, don't come talk to me either. What you calling me for?
Yeah. This is my shit.
What are you calling me for? That's my bro. What are you calling me for?
Yeah.
I already got what I needed out of you. What are you calling me for? Like, so there was never any good times. You know, when it gets to that point, there was never any good times. We want to think we had it going on and all this other shit. We never had it going on, man. We never had it going on. Until you get tapped into something that made you here, that brought you here, then you're never going to really get tapped into anything other than your own like selfish way of thinking, man, because we are really selfish as addicts, man. We are really selfish people. And so we take that to the umph degree, man, where we start hurting other people and turn other people into savages and shit around us. And that's a bad place to be, man. We start turning your loved ones into bad people because you're a bad person, bro. That's a fucked up place to be.
I feel that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? When your assholeness starts wearing, you know, when your peace of mind that you don't have is wearing off on the people around you, and they become that, bro, it's time to get there, man. It's time to at least do something, man. Move away, something, because at least you're not hurting those people anymore. Like it's like, looking back at it, it's really sad. Like, I get really upset with myself when I think about what I did to my people, man, the people that I love so much. So
that also probably keeps you clean at the same time. Like I say,
sure.
I don't ever want to see my husband's face again after he's caught me.
No. Peace of mind, man, for your family and your loved ones. You know, my mother slept for over 3 years now, not worrying about that phone call. You can't put a price tag on that, man.
No, it's my husband, he carried my disease as much as he'll never see it the way I see it, but he did. You know, one of the last times he caught me, it was like a hush hush blowout, you know, like he was, you know, obviously caught me. I said I was sorry, I wasn't gonna do it again. And then we left 20 minutes later to go to this 4th of July party, and we were a happy couple. Like that's how sick I had made him, you know,
That was one
and
of your
that's not like
points.
him.
That's one of your points, Brandy, that you referenced your point of desperation,
Yep.
where you're like, he was so, like, I've heard you say it a few times, and
Yeah.
it really hits because he was so wrapped up in your disease
In my
that
disease.
he normalized what was going on, that you just got done blowing a fucking head at, and you're at a party. Look,
Yeah.
everything's great here because
Yep.
because he doesn't want to outwardly project the problems that he's having with you. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, you know, and seeing that stuff really just shows the ripple effect that, you know, that our families carry. I told my husband one day that he was enabling me, and this is after I got home from treatment. He was slightly offended, and I was like, I'm not trying to say like, you know, you were giving me drugs, but I never moved out. And I wasn't, you know, it was in a context of where I wasn't being like, you're stupid, you know, like this is how sick I was. And
That
you
was
know,
God
it's how
speaking through you to him, going,
yeah.
look, you need to. I'm telling
Yeah, the
you, yeah,
manipulating I was,
crazy,
gaslighting.
so
Yeah.
crazy.
That's why I'm so grateful today that he's my best friend, you know, definitely. And actually, before I went to treatment, we had just celebrated 17 years of marriage. And was it 17 years of marriage? And I went to treatment like 2 weeks later. And it was like, everyone's like,
Y'all
oh,
just did
17
20. What,
years.
21 years now? You're
Yeah,
21
20
years old now?
years. Yeah.
Yeah, 20
This
years. I
coming
remember that. I remember
September.
that.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
And we just celebrated, I think we've been together for 24, 25. I can't remember now. 24, because 2001.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, we grew up together. I just took me longer and I'm older. Okay, I asked myself, how does acknowledging and accepting your desperation relate to spiritual principles like surrender? I mean, it relates to, I think, a lot of spiritual principles, really. But you know, to talking about surrender, and even the word acknowledgement, like I don't know about you guys, but when I have learned to acknowledge things in this program, like it's just no, you know, I can't deny it any longer at all. You know, it's something that I know that like I got to work on. And you know, when it comes to being acknowledging the desperation in my active addiction, of course, it didn't happen until after I had been able to separate myself from the drugs long enough to kind of think a little more clearly. And ultimately I knew I had to surrender. And like I was saying, when I first went to treatment, like I went there for one thing. And because I hadn't surrendered yet, I had acknowledged, you know, and I hadn't really accepted yet, but I knew I was desperate for change. I just didn't know what kind of change I was going for. And then once you know, I was praying and I was saying to God, you know, like, if you really don't think I should smoke pot when I get out of here, because I think I should, show me the path I'm supposed to be on and I will look for it. And the next day my book said, you are on the path I put you on. I was like, all right, I'm accepting this now. This is what it is. And which came full surrender. And you know, like it's an important part of all of that. Like if you take the three like main words I see in here, like, you know, acknowledging, accepting, and desperation. Well, actually there's more, surrender, the whole sentence itself, like it's such a beautiful collage in the end, because I know each and every one of those is a huge part of what's brought me here today. And you know, surrendering alone has allowed me to be more willing, to have courage, to have faith, to love myself and love others. You know, all of that like came with it. And that's the great stuff to acknowledge. But being able to come out of it and, you know, with way more understanding of what, you know, what it was when I first came in, you know, and how can I look at this and dissect it in a way that it's going to make me feel good. You know, acknowledgement is huge, because I didn't acknowledge anything when I was using, except for how much I had left, you know, or you know, if so and so is going to be there when they're supposed to be there. And but I just think that when it comes to desperation and surrender, like you gotta get to that point. For me personally, I had to get to the desperate part to even acknowledge the fact that I'd want to surrender, you know, because like I said, I came in with a lot of fear of it. I was really good at surrendering and taking back. Like I'm my own worst like life coach. Yeah, I got great ideas, but I don't follow through because I want to do what I want to do. And ultimately fulfilling my needs is more important than what the right thing to do is. And so surrendering all those character defects, the ones I know and the ones I don't know yet even are a big part for me when it comes to being able to acknowledge when something's not good for me, and it took all that for me to realize that I was desperate for something. I didn't know it was going to be a gift. And I cherish it today. So that's the answer to my own question.
Sounds like you're saying this is a program of surrender, not self-improvement. Is that what you're saying?
That was
Yes.
beautiful, Brandi.
That was really,
Yes.
really pretty, man. I was like just into
Yeah.
it, man.
I love that. I was taken away.
Can you say it again?
But now say it backwards
All
in
of it?
Spanish.
Yeehaw.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Andrew, what
Yes.
truths did you only become willing to face once desperation stripped away your defenses?
That's
I
good.
mean yeah, it's good. I mean, the truth that I was a drug addict, that was the beginning, being able to come out and say like, and I didn't at first, when I finally submitted to this process, like the process of like letting go of my own control, like I had to, that was the initial point off, was like my control over the situation. I had to let go of it. I thought I had control throughout the whole thing. And when I was
Right.
finally able to let let that control go, and I didn't know how long it was going to be gone. I just knew at that moment I was letting go of it. And so when I was able to get into that facility, and when I had like, it was like 2 weeks in, I remember like the phone call. Like I didn't even want to make any phone calls out. Like people were making phone calls all the time. People have been in there 3-4 times. Like they had their little way to do it. And I'm just green as cat shit. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm realizing I'm coming to terms. It took a couple of weeks to come to terms that I was an actual drug addict, and that I had to say those words, or I wasn't gonna be able to move forward in this process.
Yeah.
So I remember like not wanting to talk on the phone at all. And I remember like the first time I like called my mother, my loved ones, to be able to like say, hey, how you doing in treatment? I'm doing good. And like, I gotta talk to you, I need to talk to you. And cried a lot, did a lot of crying.
Mm.
I'm in the firm belief that if you don't ugly cry 2 or 3 times in your first year getting clean, you're not going to stay clean long term. I'm talking ugly cry to where mom's going to be like, I don't even know who that baby is.
Yeah.
I've never seen him before. That's not the one, right? So
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, lean into those times, man. I mean, there were kids that like would come to the room and just, I'm talking, couldn't control themselves cry, and I would just give them a shoulder to cry on, and because I needed it. I needed it too. And I
Yeah.
say this sometimes too, like we'll we do a lot of laughing in our lives, and not so much crying. We do cry a lot, but not so much as laughing. We do a lot of laughing, but you never forget those people that you really cry with, man. I'll never
Yeah.
forget the people that I've really, really been turned in, my emotions have been turned into those ultimate tears that really help you. Tears are so therapeutic.
Yeah.
Tears are so therapeutic, man. And if you can tap into them emotionally in a positive way, like my sponsor does, and I can sometimes do that, like on my like my yearly anniversaries and things, I can tap into it a little bit, but it's hard, man. It's hard because we like to go all the way out. When those
Yeah.
emotions will get us, it's hard to reel those in. So I know that didn't answer the question, but I know it didn't matter either. So
Hey,
I
got
think
so
that
much
was
from it.
amazing.
Yeah, I got to say real quick, when I go to church pretty regularly. I'm lazy sometimes, but when I was in active addiction, I cried every time I was in there. And I mean, I have a few times since then, like 2 months out of treatment, like I realized, oh yeah, thank you. But I don't have the same tears as I did before. Like I still, I cry, but it's not like it was before,
they're not polluted
and
tears. They're not polluted.
yes, and I think about that when I'm at church and I'm like, man, Like I would just like, why wear makeup? I just cry every time. And it was all the guilt and shame and everything. Like, you know, and I also got high at church. So that was probably part of it
Yeah.
too.
I wear makeup. They're dirty anyways. Might as well
Yeah.
just cry 'em anyway. No, now you're
Right.
crying
Right.
clean, cleansing tears, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's some of those
Yeah. They're
storms don't come
real.
to wipe us away. They come to cleanse us. So
Yeah. Right.
Okie dokie,
All right.
Brandi.
love
What
you, Brandy.
truths did
Mhm.
you only become willing to face once desperation stripped away your defenses?
That I, like Andrew said, that I was an addict. That you know, like I grew up around that kind of stuff. So like my grandma said one day, "You should have known better." And yeah, I know I should have, but I'm like anyone else. I had to kind of, I had to learn, you know, because I really thought that like maybe you could categorize me as an addict or an alcoholic, really, but I wasn't because I wasn't like X, Y, and Z. And so I had to really, um, I had to, you know, start telling the truth for what it was. You know, even before I fully believed the extent of it, you know, I had to stop telling the lies. You know, I had to be able to admit something, you know, that I was weak, you know, and I'm not weak. And I don't think that I you know, we have weak moments, of course. Just because you're an addict and you're getting here doesn't mean you're a weak person, but your disease is definitely carrying all the weight and sitting right on top of you at the same time. And you know, I had to admit that that I had been lying to everybody. I still have people today who tell me, "I can't believe you were doing that." Like I had no clue. And but the ones that saw me all the time, they knew. Uh and so I had to like stop with all the math, you know. I had to be able to say I needed help or I didn't think I needed help from anybody. Because if I was had to ask for help, that means that I didn't have my shit together. And I just didn't want people to know that. Like I'm Brandy. Like, you know, I could do that. I can hold my own. Like I'm not no pussy. Fuck yeah. I
You
was
know who
like,
you're talking
really?
to right now, bitch?
Yeah, right? You know who I am? Like, you know who my mom is? Like, and I had to like, you know, wipe all of that away. And today I realized that that was just like that was obviously just a show I was in. You know, and so I had to, you know, to be able to admit what I am and not feel shitty about it is a big thing for me. You know, I had to stop saying like, you know what, I need this for this. You know, like you don't walk in my shoes. You don't know the pain I have, the stress I have. Like, you know, I had this when I was a kid, so I need this today. Like all that stuff, like those were just lies. I mean, I believed them to the fullest extent. Um, but when I started realizing they were lies, you know, like I still have the same exact life. I still have the same pain. If anything, my pain has progressed. You know, I still deal with the same, you know, household stuff and my kids are older, so it's even different. Like I still deal with the same stuff and I do it clean. So I, you know, to sit there and lie to everybody and to myself that like, well, I need this, you know? Like you
You don't
don't
need
know what I
shit.
go through. You don't know me. Like, you know, and really I didn't know who I was. So I had to just stop lying to myself and to everybody else and admit, you know, admit what it was. And I did nothing but grow after that. Like, of course, you know, if I choose to use over my family, and even if I'm with them, they're still coming in second no matter what. That's a problem. That is a problem. You know, if you're stealing money from savings to go and get high, that's a problem. And I wasn't willing to look at it like that. It was my needs, you know? And always go back to like, if nobody knows about it, then it didn't really happen. It doesn't affect them if they don't know about it. That's a lie, by the way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. You know, man, of course, first, the depth of my addiction would be the one, you know, the main truth that I was willing to face. But, you know, there was other things that the desperation kind of pulled away is that I didn't, first of all, there was like the lie that like I couldn't be happy without being wasted. You know,
Mm.
like that was a big lie that kept me sick for a long time was that wasn't, I had the perpetual thing where every time I tried to get straight because I wasn't using the program and I wasn't dealing with all the shit from my past, I was still sick. And so I
Yeah.
was never happy straight. So it was just like I couldn't have happy sobriety. That there wouldn't be an enjoyable life in sobriety. That was definitely a couple truths that, have been greatly dispelled by this, and but also, like I like what you touched on there, Brendan, and I didn't even think about, but like, that it really wasn't okay how I was hurting people or treating people in order for my own, like it was, gosh, I'm not sure I could put it into words correctly now, but there was so much rationalization around the hurtful things I did, just not even just to keep using, but to like allow me not to be just crippled with guilt of how I was hurting
Yeah.
people, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like so much immoral activity in just so many different ways that it was like how and like you talk about going into the safe. I wasn't maybe going into the safe, I was just getting us into debt, you
Hmm.
know and that's the same thing. It's the same
Yeah.
thing as stealing. Like, you're doing something that is affecting the entire family's economic welfare. It doesn't matter if you're sneaking into a safe or if you're sneaking into a bank account, whatever that difference
Yep.
is. And so there was a lot of things about myself that I was masking with, just a perpetual wastedness. Like I think of some of the things I would say, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like
I
how
know.
how ridiculous, how
No, my God.
ridiculous, like how
Can I tell my
ridiculous.
safe
Right.
story when you get done? I want to tell my safe
Oh,
story real
I
quick.
want you to
Yeah.
tell it right now. I am
Bro,
done.
and I'm gonna microwave it. I'm gonna microwave it because it's so fucking ridiculous. So like let's just picture it, family safe. Um, I had to teach family how to get into safe, so I naturally remembered numbers on it, but I didn't write it down. I was trying to be the good person teaching the old people how to get into the safe, whatever. Roundabout to like me still knowing and remembering what the numbers were to get into the safe. Me losing my phone, um, not being able to find my phone, looking everywhere for it. I'm talking drove everywhere, looking everywhere for it. We start hearing, so people don't think I know how to get into the safe. People, this is fully removed from me being able to get into that safe, teaching anybody how to get into that safe. And as I'm calling my phone, I'm hearing the safe ringing, but and I don't really understand. I'm not really understanding that that's happening. And I'm such a dumbass, guys. I'm such a fucking dumbass. I left my phone in the safe. In the meanwhile, I'm going, bro. I'm like face up, going. I don't know, bro. I didn't even touch your fucking say. I don't even know what that safe is, bro. Don't even come at me. I taught y'all how to get in there, and
Yeah.
y'all gonna come at me a year or two later, like just raining down on it.
And
And I'm
you
like,
left
can I?
your phone in there.
And look, as and like they're going to safe, and then there's like this little canister that has like the like all the baggies and like the scales, and my phone slid right up in that bitch, bro.
Yeah.
Oh,
How you explain that,
Yeah.
man? How you explain
what
that?
Right.
I could say that might have been your first act of conscience.
Bro, it makes my guts hurt every time I think about when that
Yeah.
happened, bro. Like when I realized that was when, and I didn't really, I was like not gonna believe it until he pulled it out of the damn thing, and when he did, I'm like,
Yeah, how do you say it got there? You got it. Yeah, it is what
David
it is.
Copperfield just left. David Copperfield just left. I swear, I got his autograph, man.
You put it in there. I didn't put it in
Bro,
there.
I
no,
would say
you
you
did it.
probably lost all credibility forever.
Everything done,
Yes.
Like
done,
that
done,
moment was like, hey, shit,
done,
Andrew's here, put it away.
bro. And I still didn't
Yeah.
admit. I still did not admit I was an addict at that point. It still took me about
Yeah.
6 months to a year to really come full circle that I was an addict and get some help.
You were
It's
just
fucked up.
getting
Yeah.
even for something, right?
Crazy, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I deserved it. I deserve it. Get out of here, man.
I
It's great.
Yeah.
deserved it.
Maybe one day I'll tell the full circle on this though, but it was wild, man. It changed me.
Yeah.
Shall we enter the wild world of lightning round?
Dun, dun, dun.
We'll do a
Yes.
few rounds of lightning round.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go.
I got about 15 minutes, maybe 15
Okay,
minutes.
so that's probably going to give us one round of questions each or two, maybe.
Yes.
We'll see. We'll
Yes.
see. I like when you say 15, I like to think 19.
I
But
know. I
So
know.
why you
really,
said 15.
really, you're okay with 21.
Yeah, we're on episode 113, I think. I know.
Yep.
I know.
Okay,
You guys are funny.
okay, Andrew, you ask Benny.
All
Oh,
right.
sorry.
What role,
Sorry for cutting.
Brandi, what role does desperation play in your recovery today? 4 plus years in.
It plays in today in the hard times, like, it's frustrating times, or, life can get exhausting. And today it plays a big role in that, because I want to be clean. I want to stay clean. I don't want to go back to that nasty desperation. I want my desperation, aka passion, to keep moving me forward. So when I'm feeling off, or things are a little too much, or even a little too good, I try to keep that right there and remember, like, what my goal is for the day. I like the future trip, but, like, for today, I wanted to keep me going in the right direction that I need to be going, instead of scrolling off on things that could get me in the wrong spot. So that's my answer.
Beautiful, beautiful. You ready, Milan?
Okay,
Milan,
repeat the question.
what role, sir, what role does desperation play in your recovery today, almost 2 years in?
It still plays the same role. It's like I said, like I could flash right back. It's still a motivator. Like a huge part of what it motivates me now is the things I'm learning, and the love and the growth of that love is a big time motivator. But that fear of that moment is still sits in my heart. I don't know what percentage it plays, but it still plays that flashback, never going back, never going back, never
Yeah.
going back, never want to be there.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. You done? All right, cool. So what role does desperation play in my recovery today? I mean, simply it keeps me humble. And that point of desperation keeps me really humble. It makes me know that, I'm not the one that's making this whole thing go around, and I'm not too important to ask for help. It keeps me picking up the phone, staying of service. Humility is not thinking less of myself, but thinking of myself less. And that's a big deal to me, man. That's one of the two main things that keep my recovery strong, right? And you can't skip the struggle and expect the crown, right?
Yep.
You got to remember that. And we get tested when we get tested most when it's time to elevate. Remember that too. At that point of desperation, that's the time we get tested, because we have to elevate past that. And what's going to keep us elevating past that is that God of our understanding. You might not know it at that point, but that's the only thing keeping you going, man. So once you get through that point, tap back into him or her,
Yep.
whatever it is, whatever that got you through that, to turn that thing over, surrender to it, man. And I'll surrender this thing.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier, man. I promise.
Love it.
Boom.
Love
Okay,
it.
Brandi, you got a question for me?
I do. Is Gift of Desperation a choice?
Whoa. Is it a choice? It wasn't a choice for me. Like, it just really shifted. It was an actual internal shift in my entire, this is possible or this isn't possible. Like, for me, it was literally the difference between I'm going to be doing this till I die, to waking up that next morning going, oh, this is over.
Yeah.
And that was it. So, I mean, I can only speak from my experience. So for me, it wasn't.
Like that though.
Take that question.
All right. Is Gift of Desperation a choice?
I originally was thinking yes, but no. That gift of desperation is not a choice for me. I mean, I had to completely, burn myself to the ground to be able to build myself back up again and realize what kind of man I was, wanted to be, thought I was, didn't want to be, right? The whole thing. So, fear doesn't really stop me anymore after that. Once I was able to rise, but from the phoenix, right? Rise from the ashes, right? Fear doesn't stop me, because I know, like, fear doesn't stop death, man, but it stops life, right? Fear will stop life. So don't let fear stop you today from living your life, man. And drugs are not where it's at, man. I've never met anybody in this world that's ever said that I put drugs on something and made it a better situation, turned out better, worked out for them. It doesn't happen.
No.
It doesn't happen. So the only thing drugs breeds is more drugs. So stay away from fuck drugs.
Yeah.
These drugs breeds more drugs. That's so true.
That's it. There's nothing else. I mean, they don't do
true.
anything else. That's what it
Mic
is.
drop. right?
Boom.
I kind of felt like a little bit of both. I think we could choose to acknowledge it to be a gift, and with that desperation already being there. And I think the choice comes from like, how long do you want to be desperate for? How long do you want to live like that? And even though like we don't have in full active addiction, we don't have a lot of choices. And I think for me, when I realized that this was a gift, I had the ability to choose it. And again, everybody's different. But from like seeing other people, like, I just want to be like, just choose the gift. Just do
Yeah.
it. Just choose it. Like, you're right there. You're right there. Just pull the ribbon. Like, it's there. But it's everybody's different, and everybody's rock bottom and gift of desperation is different. And so I can say that, like, I chose it. But I chose the gift part to it eventually, but the desperation was always there. It's just, what was I going to do with it?
Yeah.
That was my
Say,
answer.
not behind every gift of desperation is a big old thing of slime ready to pour on you, right? Like,
Right.
not gonna happen, man. Lean into it.
Okay, Andrew. What
That's my
spiritual?
name. Don't wear it out.
Okay, Andrew, and what spiritual shift, Andrew, began, Andrew, in me, or in you, Andrew, the moment, Andrew, you truly had nowhere else to turn, Andrew.
Love, man. I learned
Woo.
how to love, man. I learned how to love, man. I was loved. I was loved into this program. I was loved into this thing
Mhm.
by my family. Loved into the just getting clean. The detox slash treatment program that I was in, and that subsequently pointed me to the God of my understanding, man. It pointed me to meetings. It pointed me to fellowship, to connection, to community, to God, man. Grow or die. Get off drugs.
Yeah.
Gift of desperation. Group of drug addicts. The great outdoors. Call them what you want, man. I'm tapped in, man. I know for a fact God's got me, man, and I'm okay with what's going on today. Because that point of desperation got it to where I can actually open my eyes and see things for what they were, man, and then start
Mm.
seeing things for the colors, what they were, the food tastes what it is, and all that shit, man. Shit changes when you get clean. Try it.
Yep.
Yes.
Love you guys.
Okay, Brandy, what spiritual shift began in you the moment you truly had nowhere else to turn?
Definitely, like Andrew said, love is a big one. But for me, it was the willing, my willing to do something different, and to be honest about stuff, because lying is not a spiritual thing, like it's not at all. It messed with my spirituality 100%. And when I was finally willing to come in here and be honest, um it's a game changer for me. That's when the growth really started. Even if, and like I said, I didn't do it perfectly, but that's where it started for me, was being able to be honest about who I was, and where I've been, and what I want. What I want out of my recovery, what I want out of what life I have left. And so I'm very grateful to be able to be honest with myself about who I am today. So, which is very spiritual, I think.
I love that.
Yep.
Okay, Milan, what spiritual shift began in me the moment I truly had nowhere else to turn? I think first of all, it ignited willingness. It ignited willingness in a big
Bless
way,
you.
Mm.
and really it opened my mind to anything that would be different than where I was.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I feel like I got punched in the face with surrender. Like that first surrender was just like, oh, okay, no, I don't want to anymore, and it was a relief, like how much of that mental space was just taken up, rolling and rolling on the more train,
Mm.
and man, that was really my first speck of silence and my first feeling of freedom. And so, like that shift began, and I just was willing, open-minded, and ready to do anything for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Okay, Andrew.
Question.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got how do you oh yeah. What advice would you give someone who's newly desperate in this program? What advice would you give to them?
You're asking me, right?
Yes, Brandi.
I would say to to go with it, like those feelings are not comfortable, and but just go with it, like just go a little further and into that desperation, like dissect the word as much as you can, even, and every angle to it, like what got you to feeling like that, but then also turn it around, what can get you to tomorrow, and just to embrace the miserable, knowing that that it's in the beginning of the end. And so I think it's important to be able to see things that we couldn't see another way. That's when you're desperate and you're getting in here, like where else to go? What's the alternative? That's what I tell myself. What's the alternative? I don't want to do this. What's my alternative? And
Grow or
so
die,
I just
man.
gotta, just jump in, like you jumped in your drugs. Cause I know I did, full swimming.
Jumped in that bag of
Yeah,
drugs, didn't you?
that's
All
right.
right, you ready? Milan.
Yeah.
I'm so dumb. What advice would you give someone who's newly desperate in this program, struggling?
I would say to apply yourself. Anybody who says this program doesn't work for them, it doesn't. You have to work for the program. You are going to get in what you put, you're going to get out what you put in. And you have to, first of all, you have to put in an open mind. You have to start to be honest with yourself about really where your life's at and the fact that it really wasn't working under your own stewardship. You have to be willing to do the work. It is called a program of action, and these 12 steps are them. And if you do not apply yourself through those steps, you'll be white knuckling it in some form or another, even if you manage to stay straight. So please just give your life a chance of freedom, surrender, resurrender, and then maybe surrender again.
Surrender tastes good with surrender on top of it.
Oh man, I love an extra surrender of my surrender, especially
With
when
the
we
little-
get that jalapeno surrender.
What about
Yeah.
what about a surrender glaze on top? You ain't never seen
Yeah.
that, man. Caramelized surrender on
Caramelized
top.
surrender.
Get out of here, man. All right. So what advice
That's
would I give
great.
to someone who's newly desperate in this program?
Surrender.
Surrender. Absolutely lean into it. Cause look, ambition without action turns into anxiety. We don't want anxiety, right? Anxiety kill us. And I was thinking about this, no risk, no story. Let it fly, man. Let it fly, right? Like lean into this program. You get tested most when it's time to elevate. So those times when you want to shut down the most it's that time for you to get that point of desperation in your life, man. You know what I mean? I'm gonna use this couple seconds to you didn't even give me the time. Hey, look, if you want to make the wrong
longer.
If you want to make the wrong decision, you rip me? Listen to me. If you want to make the wrong decision, ask everyone. You like that?
I do.
And look,
do.
y'all didn't like that one. That was not. I thought it was a heavy hitter.
I liked it.
Okay.
It's a heavy hitter. I didn't write it down. Sorry.
Hey, look, no, you're good. You're good. But look, I would rather adjust my life to your absence than to try to adjust my boundaries to accommodate your disrespect. It's about self-acceptance and not self-esteem. I'm done. I'm good. We're good. I've missed what I was
like
going to
that.
say.
Unwrap that gift of desperation slowly for the rest of your life.
Please
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I always say, if you have a good idea, call your sponsor first.
do. But pray first. Pray before you do it.
But
Pray before you do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pray
Man.
before you do it, bro.
That's
It was
right. That
amazing
is
to be
right.
here together. Tune
love
in
that.
next episode for more recovery fun. Bye-bye, everybody. I love you
Bye.
so much.
Love
Please
you.
help us help others. If you like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.